welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and today in the arena we're going to take a look at Mono Blue. This deck, in the hands of Ross Merriam, just placed second at SCG Worcester, which is the first large paper tournament of the M20 metagame, M20 standard. Yeah, that's a way to say it. So a few things about Mono Blue that make it sort of good again. Number one, people really like to play Nexus of Fate. Now, we don't have to worry about Nexus of Fate here in Best of 1 land on MTG Arena, which is where I prefer to play, but in Best of 3 competitive Magic, Nexus of Fate is still a big problem, and one of the best decks to play against Nexus of Fate is Mono Blue. The other big reason that Mono Blue can make a resurgence and still do very well are Planeswalkers. You know who I mean. So, because Planeswalkers from War of the Spark and all the other sets before it are still such a big deal, it makes a card like Spell Pierce and a bunch of counter spells and instant speed interaction really strong. Teferi Time Raveler is very good against Mono Blue, but Mono Blue can, of course, try to find ways to beat down the Time Raveler and keep it from having such a negative effect. And honestly, this card is not on as high of an upswing as it was several months ago when it was played in all the Bant decks, when it was played in all of the Esper decks. Right now, most of what you might see is Esper control here and there. And that's all right. The rest of the matchup is okay if they don't have the Time Raveler. You probably like your spot. Let's talk about some additions to the deck. An Unsummon has been added. This is right up Mono Blue's alley, a very cheap tempo play, better than running probably something like a Blink of an Eye. It can be used to save your own creatures, which is very nice. The other big addition is Spectral Sailor, which for 4 mana will draw a card. As flash, as flying, is a 1/1 Spirit Pirate. A big thing about this is that it is a pirate, which has allowed some Lookout's Dispersals to sneak their way into the deck, since we now have just as many pirates as wizards. Wizard, pirate, wizard, pirate. So a couple Lookouts Dispersals and the Wizard's Retorts playing together. Then after that, when you look around, it's mostly the same shell. Pteramander got shaved a little bit. There's still 4 dive downs in the deck. There's 1 copy of Negate. And there are, I think I mentioned you, but Merfolk Trickster is actually still a very key card. Taps down things like a Danto Vanguard and eats them, takes away abilities from Knight of the Ebon Legion and things like that. But Merfolk Trickster as kind of a low-key, I would consider MVP of the deck, as otherwise we get tempoed out far too easily. 20 islands. Sideboard, which we won't be using much today. I still enjoy to play Best of 1 for making videos, but definitely if you're going to do any kind of sideboarded Magic right now, you need to know about M20's impact on sideboarding. So Aether Gust is in here, great against red or green permanents, of which there are so many, from Wilderness Reclamation to Goblin Chainwhirler. The Cerulean Drake is fantastic against mono red. They just can't kill it, ever. Handles stuff infinity. Tail's End counters target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell. So it can counter any planeswalker. It can counter, obviously, anything that says it's a legend, right up to and including Urza's Ruinous Blast and Search for Azcanta. Countering activated and triggered abilities is interesting as well. You can counter a Chupacabra's trigger going off. You can make an ultimated planeswalker like a Chandra do nothing. Things like that are pretty spectacular. So keep an eye out for these cards out of the sideboard. Tail's End, Cerulean Drake, Aether Gust. They're pretty big additions to the blue deck. Let's go play some games and see how we do. How could I resist? Oh my goodness. I mean, a lot could go wrong, and our opponent has Fairy Miscreant, which is a card some people have included in mono blue decks lately. Let's lead with the Pteramander. We can protect it with the Storm Tamer. But yeah, Fairy Miscreant says whenever the Miscreant enters the battlefield, if you control another creature named Miscreant, draw a card. Okay, this is going to be a difficult game. The opponent's already got the favorable wins. Their flyers are going to be bigger and stronger than ours. So a big decision point here on whether or not to play the Curious Obsession. without protection, it's a very bad idea. We could play out both Storm Tamers and then have protection next turn. If our opponent just plays a large creature, I guess we can double obsess it. But if it's an eagle, I guess that's a 3/4. It's really difficult to get around. This is going to be difficult because our creatures, quite frankly, are going to have a really hard time getting through. All right, I think I've talked myself into 2 Storm Tamers. Or is it Storm Tamer Opt? It could be 1 Storm Tamer, 1 Obsession. If there's an unsummon, it's a big problem. But I think I want to go like this and use an Opt and try to keep finding good plays to help our Pteramander get through once we do obsess it. Cards like Merfolk Trickster might be crucial. You can guess a lot more flyers are coming down, so just hoping to be able to get in there is probably very bad. Does the Miscreant want to mingle? Also, we need to fill our graveyard with cards like Opt to get our Pteramander evolved. Probably, or adapted, I should say, as soon as possible. If we don't, we're in trouble, because the opponent is going to have big flyers. We has medium flyers. We do have a card they don't have called Tempest Gen. Maybe we can find that along with the island to play it. But just slapping a Curious Obsession on our creatures and getting in there, I don't think that's going to solve our problems this time. Opponent's having a real think here as well, which is fair, I did as well. I just try to figure out what could they be thinking about that hard. It seems pretty straightforward to play a Rustwing Falcon and attack with a Miscreant. So what's in their hand making them wonder about this? Maybe this is their only 2 creatures, and they predict that Curious Obsession because of how long I thought about my turn. And if they predict a Curious Obsession, they don't want to let a Curious Obsessed creature get in there if I have an Unsummon, or if I have a Merfolk Trickster, so that would be a reason not to attack with a Miscreant. So let's see what the opponent does. The fact, though, if I have an Unsummon or a Trickster, and I have double Obsession, then they're in big trouble, but most people don't play around double Obsession. Perhaps we also have a disconnect. It's also very, very possible. Magic Arena has some disconnect issues these days, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, our opponent exhausts their timer. I'll take the island. We're going to need them. We're going to need to cast Tempest Gens and stuff. A little bit of regret there. I could just opt now. Plays around Spell Pierce if the opponent has that. Possibly finds a counter of our own. 3 straight lands were atop the deck, but there is a Trickster. So now I feel like I can say go and try to set up a Trickster into Curious Obsessions. The opponent's been away from the keyboard for a while. Let's see if they're back. They've had a great start. They played a Rustwing Falcon. They shocked and played a Rustwing Falcon, and then passed the turn without attacks. Well, they didn't pass the turn. Their timer ran out. So, are they going to make it back to the game? At this point, it feels like it must be a disconnect or a screaming child in the other room. Who knows? And there goes the timer again on 0 timeouts. It's a big deal. It's sort of a free win if it goes to 0. Maybe. We'll see. Thrilling, riveting content here in high mythic ranks. Has the opponent just vanished from the face of the earth. Classic. And that's the game. I never know if I should put these in. I find them really funny. And like for me, when I watch YouTube videos, kind of what I'm looking for is just something different and humorous. I know a lot of other people are looking for information. Like, is the deck good? When does it play well? And I find weird moments like this very funny and entertaining to me. So maybe there are some people out there like me who will enjoy this. I don't know. We'll get into in-depth gameplay next. Alright, we've got some Dorks and a Spell Pierce. It's Far from a great hand, but I think this is what you end up rolling with when you play this deck. The opponent being on the play probably means that we're not leading on the Storm Tamer. We're going to hold up the Spell Pierce. A turn 2 Thought Erasure might need to get countered. Something of that nature, and if they don't have it, we drop a Sailor. Probably. Maybe. We'll see. Do we have an opponent this time? Will I be able to basically rope my opponents and run them out of... Well, I'm not doing the roping. Will my opponents rope me into Mythic Top 100? That's the compelling drama here today, friends. That's the height of esports. All right, let's roll. What are we doing? All right, Godless Shrine. Maybe my whole prediction was spot on. Let's see what happens. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. That's not good. That's pretty rough. Okay. Ooh, and then we draw the one that works off the wizard. Ooh, it's a little painful to see. But let's get the party started. I'm ready for Teferi, Hero of Precinct 1. Cranking out those tokens. Hopefully the Trickster can brick wall some of the tokens at some point. Oh, lordy. Oh, my lord. So I don't think the opponent will have a 1-mana multicolored card here. Do I want to Trickster block one of the heroes? I think so. I think that's a fine play. If they attack, and they do. So we can at least slow one of them down. And now, Storm Tamer. We are in a little bit of a pickle as our cards aren't very good. Hero alone is probably better than everything we have going. And that's scary. Spectral Sailor can tap 4 mana to draw a card and try to get us back into it. I think we need a Tempest Djinn or something large to protect. Temple of Silence will scry. And they kept it on top, so we know there's something good coming. Let's use the Spell Pierce, since our opponent will eventually have enough mana to ignore it. And yeah, Teferi Time Raveler must be countered. Its static ability of not being able to cast things at instant speed basically shuts down the entire mono blue deck. And now we say go. Just down to a Wizard's Retort, unfortunately. Almost anything the opponent plays here will be... We hope they don't double spell. We hope that they just have to use a single spell and then we counter it. Alright. I feel like I need to Storm Tame that. Which sucks. But I can't just let the opponent Thought Erase me there. If they have land into another Teferi, we have to stop it. But the race is falling apart. Turn 2 hero, turn 3 hero on the play. There just wasn't much to be done. So how do we swing the race? We need to draw a few more Tricksters. I talked about Tempest Djinn. There's the other Time Raveler. That's got to get countered. Opponent's now up to 5 power on the battlefield. They missed a land drop, so we know that they have relevant spells in hand. One might be like a Hero of Dominaria. That's not a bad pull. We can try to ambush something now, but I think that our Sailor is going to end up dead. That's a lot of land that we've drawn. So a bit of a flood game on top of everything else. So trying to ambush the hero, is that good? I actually don't think we'll be able to ambush the hero. I think the opponent will kill... the Trickster in response, and if that's the case, we may as well at least prevent some of the damage from coming in. Now, if the opponent responds with an instant speed removal spell, they still get the token. But it's better than taking the full damage when we try to ambush the Trickster. Okay. Alright. Well, no token from Vraska's Contempt, and we don't take 2 damage, so I think that's the best we could get out of the Trickster there. Alright. Come on, we need Djinns. Yay. Let's do this. It's a little bit of something going now. See if we can steal this somehow. The Storm Tamer to protect it. And it's a Basilica Bellhaunt, which is obnoxious, but it could have been worse. And I don't think the opponent crashes in here. Oh my goodness. Did we just do that? I think we did. Second Jhin. If the opponent's best play last turn was a Bellhaunt, maybe we can steal this. They shock themselves. Is this a Teferi? Let's enter the God Eternals. We can counter that with the Storm Tamer, though. Maybe the opponent wanted to enter the God Eternals their own creature to gain the 4 life and make the 4/4. And then, I don't know. I guess they're still dead. Yeah, that's still too much damage. Here's an attack. Hoping that we just won't block, but we do. Ninja'd this game. Holy cow. I'm sure the opponent needed that 5th land on a number of turns to hit that Enter the God Eternals, and we would have been toast. But instead, we power back in and steal it. Hey, Curious Obsession and Dive Down in the same hand on the play. I don't think you mulligan this for... Hey, you just don't do much better. Opponent has to think a little bit. They've got their Sarkhan avatar. Ogredor. Rank number 945. I mean, we can always play a game called Topple the Statue. Topple in the statue. Topple in the statue. Opponent mulligans twice. They're in trouble. But the London mulligan treats people better than the original mulligan. Mulliganing to 5 used to be an instant death sentence, especially if you were on like 1 land or 4 land in your 5-card hand. London mulligan does make that less likely. Mulliganing still isn't good, but it's just not absolute death. That said, we might see the opponent's scoop on turn 2. I know I'd be tempted to after a mulligan, seeing the opponent go Terramander Curious Obsession, but they have the Llanowar Elves, the greatest and best in the world. Two-card combo. Booyah! Alright, draw that. It's a Storm Tamer, but I don't want to play it here. Not with Dive Down, that could protect the Terramander from Cast Down, something of that nature. And then the terrible feeling over here, but it's Rotting Regisaur. Oh my, that is a beast. That is not bad, I will grant that. And not something I was prepared for, but the Merfolk Trickster is certainly going to punish it a bit. And we do draw another land, which was a big deal. So now we'll end the turn, and the opponent with the Mold of 5 and the turn 2 Rotting Regisaur here. Let's let them discard a card. We want that to happen, but then Trickster can come in. So I could wait and try to ambush the Llanowar Elves with this, but I don't really love it. I'd prefer to just shut down the Regisaur. And this is a good test for Regisaur. He came out on turn 2. Will he be good? There's a Gruul Spellbreaker. Lord almighty. It's a lot of beef. Will they be able to beat me to death? If we draw another island, we'll be in pretty good shape with a Tempest Shin. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, got there. Just keep bringing them out. I know, I'm holding back these counters, but I think that getting on the board is important enough. We have like a 2-turn clock here, so if we block the Regisaur, we can definitely take the 5 and then take another 5, and maybe a little bit more, as long as we get to hit a few blocks. But Siren Storm Tamer, protected by Wizard's Retort, should get to chump block the Regisaur when we need to. So here I could block the Gruul Spellbreaker and use a dive down, but it leaves me open to any instant speed, like removal spell for the Pteramander. So I don't really want to do that. I'm just going to make sure I block the Regisaur while I can. It's conservative, but I don't mind. Alright. Alright. It's big. It's a big boy. But there is another Storm Tamer, so here we go. Get in there. We only need one more turn with this clock. And there's another Spell Pierce, but we've got the 2 blockers here. It's going to be really close without them. But since we have 2 blockers and a counter for whatever the opponent pulls off the top, we should be good. And it's a land off the top. Oh, I've been there. I've been there, sir. Or madam, whatever's. I've been in your shoes. Pulling the land when you need the big draw is not good. Of course, it wouldn't matter too much anyway with our hand. And that's going to be the flying over the top game against the Jund Dinos. I suppose we can try it. It's kind of an empty looking turn too, but with a Jhin that we can protect with a retort, it feels like I should be playing this hand. 4 mana is a lot, but maybe the Sailor's ability makes it worth it. Maybe not. Leyline of Abundance, oh no. Alright, it's on. There it is. You get to begin with this on the battlefield, and the Llanowar Elf, no! This is such a terrible thing. This is where you want a Lookout's Dispersal instead of the Wizard's Retort, that's for sure. Our opponent's going to have 4 mana on turn 2. Let's see what they do with it. Risen Reef. Ugh. Alright. Alrighty then. Not good. This is the worst. Spectral Sailor. I better just leave up the counter magic now. I can't even slam the Tempest in because Nissa or a Hydroid Crassus or something will come down. Cameo. Nope. No, let's not. Let's not do that. Please. No! Worst. I know what it's like. I've played this deck a lot of times. When you're hitting with it, the whole world is like in the palm of your hand. Alright. So this Lookout's Dispersal isn't going to do anything. Making the opponent pay 4 more mana is basically a fail. We could try to catch them being greedy with a Crassus though, but I think that what they'll do if I hold up mana and they're smart is just use the Leyline. So we better just hope that they're on empty and run out the Tempest in and try to get the damage in over the top. But if they have a Crassus, any Nissa, such a problem. Yep. Holy guacamole. Now, I'll always wonder if I had just said go, would I be able to counter that Crassus, but our opponent would still draw a bunch of cards, and like I said, if they're a good opponent, they're just going to activate the Leyline anyway, and this was the line that let me at least try to get back in the game. So I don't have regrets. I think I did the right thing. It just looks really bad, but there was a good reason for it. The opponent's draw was simply the Nutter Butters, as you could try saying. Yeah, dispersing it. The opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana available with the Leyline. You can hope that they just forget how this works. So I think that is our line, is that they forget that they can pay. But yeah, here we go. All right. Plenty of Tameos. Interesting. I didn't run Tameo in my version of the deck. I like it with Nexus of Fate, but I didn't like it without it. But yeah, I mean, it's a good card. I wonder what else got trimmed to build this version. Mine has a lot of Cavalier of Thorns. Maybe our opponent has only a few of them. No, you're not very good now, are you? Need you on turn 2. Don't need you right now. Alright. Let's bounce that Hydroid Krasis. Then what do we do? Draw Trickster? No, the opponent still has the Cavalier of Thorns. There's literally nothing we can do. So this game is just going to continue spiraling. I don't have any real chance, so I'm going to leave it here rather than play that out, because no matter what our opponent does, it's going to be better than anything our entire deck can do. I think that's totally a justified concession. Put in comments if you disagree. Alright, Curious Sailor with Dive Down and Spell Pierce. Should be good. Our opponent doesn't leyline us. Being on the draw is kind of rough. It looks like there's a mulligan already going on, though. And our opponent's on a 61 card deck. What a rebel. Doesn't play by his own rules. Lives his own life. So have we mulliganed into the great turn 1 Llanowar Elf or something? Okay. Storm Tamer. Maybe we're up against Wizards? That would actually be a pretty tough matchup. Not a desirable one either. The fact that the opponent could also produce flying blockers is what you really are afraid of with a Curious Obsession deck here. Oh, does the opponent have a Curious Obsession maybe? Jeskai? Alright, I don't know what's happening. So, we could counter that. We could also simply unsummon the Siren Storm Tamer. I only have one creature, but I can protect it with Dive Down. I think that makes unsummon the play, especially now that the opponent already played this tapped land. And there's a Pteramander, which I think we put out here. The Sailor having flash means he can come down later. Oh yeah, I think so. Though you never know, just because somebody looks macho and blackbeardy in the modern world doesn't mean they don't identify differently from you. Lightning Stormkin. Uh-huh. Yeah, I am not blocking. And do we get a Storm Tamer? We do. So we can get our Sailor on the board. And now I think it's Curious Obsession time over here on this Pteramander. Let's pull our Sailor back. I don't really want to trade it with a Storm Tamer. And that will be a hit, it looks like. What do you think the Jeskai is for in the Wizards deck? What would you do with white mana in a deck like this? I really do want to get that onto the battlefield. Eagle. Eagle is what you do. That's some power. There's no question about that. Oh, aggressive. Alright, I need to get some stuff in the graveyard, I think. But yeah, this is a big problem. I don't think I have a good chance. But yeah, I do need to fill my graveyard a bit for the Pteramander, as evolving it could be a big deal. Ugh. That's rough. Get on in there. Looks like we're gonna get mana screwed out of this one. And this flyer deck is of course going to pack a much better punch than ours has. And missing land drops is going to make it all but impossible here. And if the opponent just has a bolt or a removal spell, the game is virtually over, but I think we have to make these plays. I think Storm Tamer needs to be down there so we can play the retort. The retort has to get in the graveyard so we can adapt the Pteramander. Our way back in the game is to get this thing huge. And instead it's a Shalai. What the hell? What a deck! What a deck. Land off the top, but we have no chance here. This is going to be another early scoops for the mono blue. And hey, we got outclassed in the air. What a curve of stuff. We got a Siren Pirate Wizard, an Elemental Wizard, a Bird Spirit, and a Shalai, and a Curious Obsession, and the mana was flawless. I love it. I just love it. So great. Man. Let's do a quick review back on the deck now that we've played it a little bit here. So, wins today were pretty good. Esper, Jund, those are Jund Dinos. Those are decks you should be able to race and do things in the air, and they don't put flying blockers up against you, but in the places where flying blockers came out to play, with Hydroid Crassus and with whatever that Jeskai Flyers deck was, we had a huge problem. Also, Wizard's Retort and Lookout's Dispersal just never lined up. We always either had a wizard but not a pirate, or a pirate but not a wizard, and it was a bit of a train wreck, to be honest. I honestly think that because the pirate is cheaper, it makes a lot more sense to have more Lookouts Dispersals in the deck than Wizard's Retorts. Maybe a 3-2, maybe a 4-1. The deck basically needs to determine the winner in the first 6 or 7 turns, and Lookout's Dispersal is almost always a pure counter in those spots. And with Spectral Sailor being turn 1, Dispersal being turn 2, and you needing a counter on time, that makes sense to me. Negate never worked out for me. Our opponents are playing too many creatures in best of 1. It's quite possible this should be an Essence Capture or a Quench, something that catches things better, or this could be the next Lookout's Dispersal. The fact of the matter is that there are way too many creatures in best of 1 to be leaning too hard on cards like Negate. You have to have a lot of other answers to creatures, which the deck doesn't really have. 2 or 1 copy of Unsummon could definitely be 2 or 3. This is a card I always felt I could use better. Worst case scenario, you can defend your Spectral Sailor or Tempest Djinn with it, bouncing them and replaying them, or get another use out of a Merfolk Trickster. So I really want more of these in the deck. And yeah, I think that concludes basically the best of 1 review. We lost to a Leyline God Draw, and we don't have, what is the card? This card, Mist-Cloaked Herald, which can't be blocked. Back in the other mono blue version, you would have this card if your opponent had flyers. So this card could get around a Hydroid Crassus. This card could get around those Jeskai Bird Favorable Winds decks, which we played 2 Favorable Winds decks, which was surprising. And this deck is in big trouble against a good Favorable Winds deck. Like big trouble on the draw against Favorable Winds. Mist-Cloaked Herald would still get around that, but I don't think that Mist-Cloaked Herald is that good of a card compared to Spectral Sailor. In theory, it could take the place of a Pteramander, which never got adapted in my games, but I think Pteramander is such a better card. So the deck has a weakness now to any amount of flying creatures that it didn't have before, and that's going to be one of the knocks on the deck going forward, is how many flying creatures are in the format. And if so, the deck needs to change to deal with that. I still think with all the Planeswalkers in the format and things like that, Spell Pierce is a good card, but it's not good against flying blockers. We need Unsummons and maybe Essence Captures as one of the stronger cards, or to up the Lookout's Dispersals to make it possible to start countering those flying blockers as early as turn 2. That concludes my review of the Mono Blue Tempo deck in M20 Standard. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.